So presumably, if we're looking at the revenues from the third quarter, we're gonna see comparable revenues come in from those November bills. Meaning that, on balance, right, if everything held fairly constant here, we should still have a bump of at least another, what, 100,000, give or take, in this account.
But there's about 140, 150 that needs to come out of that. I would guess by the end of the year, although the one we're still waiting for some parts on. So that might not happen in the first of next year.
But of the 3 that are remaining, what you're saying is there's 2 that are already on their way to having it done, and so there would be 1 remaining after that that still needs to be brought up to snuff.
Well,
We should have them all done.
they're just waiting for some parts for the one.
We just,
Okay.
They're all gonna be done soon.
this year,
Yeah, this year.
Earlier.
this calendar.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So, and then the cost of sewage that the county is gonna charge us would then put us in a negative per month because of their costs going up.
So,
I think it's time for us to start looking at it. Whether we do the 40 cents, I'm recommending the 40 cents. That still puts us at 355 and 40 cents is 395, which still is below Monitor and Bangor and River Sewage.
so how is the county charging us? They're counting, I mean, obviously there's surplus built in, right? There's some surplus built in order for us to have the balance accrued that we have. When I look at the revenues here, you know, we have total billings, right? Regional charges, operations and maintenance, capital improvements, local operation and maintenance charges.
So the capital improvements, is that capital improvements on revenue up at the top? Under your sticky note?
No, that's just,
Capital improvements is spoken
it's
about,
under
right?
expenditures.
Reserve for capital improvements is right here, 315,000.
Right, no, right up here.
Oh.
Right up here, capital improvements is where I was looking at it, so it's under expenditure.
So on the bill, there could be just like our water bill's got $15 a quarter. I haven't seen a sewer bill because I don't have sewage, but I think there is a 15 or.
There's a $15
No, I
and
think
like
they're still-
17 cents.
I think we're still paying on a bond on sewer though, but we're done on water. So I think that's still going toward bond in parts. You know, I'm sure there's probably something above what goes toward the bond. I don't know exactly what the breakdown would be. So I guess my question would be, I realize it's an apples to oranges kind of situation, but if our customer charge is currently the $3.55, there's going to be some surplus built in there. We're not going to be paying the same amount as what we're charging, obviously, or we wouldn't have a fund that was building at the clip that it is. So you're saying that we're going to be charged more by the county, but what I'm having trouble reconciling is that we're doing a minimum sewer charge that is charging at present $71 as a minimal charge for probably a fair amount of people that aren't using 20 units of sewer. So if we're not putting as much into the system as we're billing people for,
We should be able to deposit it.
there should be that surplus in there. So how does the
The
355?
minimum has got to be attached to their water bill.
Right. Yeah,
That's how we measure sewage is with water bill.
No, it's not for the first 20 units. So if somebody doesn't use that much water, let's say it's a single person living in a home, they might not use all that much water, but at minimum, they're gonna pay 20 units of sewer regardless of how much water they use. If that home is vacant, right, let's say there's snowbirds and that home is vacant and they're really not using any water, they still have a minimum sewer charge of 20 units that they're gonna pay.
71 bucks.
Every single time. So if we are not putting that much into the system that we have to pay for, yet we're charging everybody
There should be
this
deposit.
minimum, I don't understand why we would have a shortfall in this account.
I I know
That's
the
what I'm
city-
interested in seeing, how those things
The
reconcile.
account ain't gonna go dry, obviously, with that much money in it. I'm just saying, it's not going to continue to gain, it's going to start losing.
I understand, I'm trying to understand how one thing feeds the other. That's what I'm trying to get at here. We're not paying as much to the county as what we're charging to the customer, because that's just not how it works. We wouldn't have surplus if that was the case.
We gotta be paying the county according to what we're actually using, actual units used.
Right.
They do not estimate. So I'm gonna use a local resident that's a senior citizen in the village. And he shared with me that his water is $29, but his sewer, no matter what, is $71. And he said, I just don't understand how I use so much sewer when he is a person that basically is showering every other day. And so to him, to see that sewer charge on his sewage, it surprises him. Let's put it that way.
And when I had initially asked some questions about this, because my understanding, at least with water billing, is you can't do this, but apparently there's this little loophole where you can do it with sewer billing, and they say that this is how it's been for years with this minimum charge, but not everybody does it. For some reason, we years ago decided to do it, to charge a minimum, regardless of whether or not it's used. There are other townships and other water authorities that are not charging this way, that actually do have the sewer usage tied to the water usage. And in an extreme situation, if somebody had a water leak, that's exactly where those sewer bills start climbing, because then they're above the minimum, and then they track together. But for most of the people in the township, they're below the minimal level, and they're paying the same amount every single month for sewer, whether they use it or not. And it just seems like to hit them, especially the people in Linwood, who are about to get hit otherwise, and are also getting hit on their taxes because of what's happening with Linwood Metro Water, this is gonna be just another hit on them as well. So I'm just curious how it all reconciles, and I was hoping,
So,
thank you for this, by the way.
are you hooked to the sewer line?
I'm sorry?
Are you hooked to the sewer line?
I'm not. I'm actually,
that
I don't have a
a
dog in the
I
story,
am
except for
hooked
that
to
they
the
actually
sewer.
voted for me, so.
But no matter what, since I've lived in my property, my sewer bill has been $71, no matter what. And I'm not arguing, because I don't want a septic system. But not everybody's in the same ship I'm on. There's a lot of people who just don't have a septic system, because it definitely would be, a savings. And I don't get that.
You can say what you want to, but the health department is getting pretty carried away.
Absolutely.
Everybody on 13 now, when their septic goes, they gotta hook to the sewer line.
Yeah. Well,
On Mackinac Road, the reason why this house hasn't went up is because the health department came out and said he had to put in 3 foot of dirt. Well, he says, I'm not putting in 3 foot of dirt on the whole lot to bring up the septic. Well, anyhow.
well, the question is this. If we have the ability to charge in accordance with what the actual usage is, I think that would be the one thing. I lived in Frankenmuth. I was billed, if I used 10,000 gallons of water, for 10,000 gallons of sewage. But we don't do it that way here. And that, I think, is where some of the people have reservations.
Yes, sir.
Could I recommend that maybe take a look to see what we are charged, because at least one of the 3 neighboring counties charges the townships that minimum as well. Because that might answer trustee DeShano's specific question.
You said
On
you
that.
called.
I called and talked to Rachel some time ago asking about this. She couldn't identify
Okay.
when Calpollen Township went to the minimal billing. Some do, some don't, is what she told me. But she didn't know exactly when that had happened. And I guess my other question would be, if we don't have an actual tally, if you will, and how much our people are putting into the system, then how did we know that Mr. Chips was overdumping? How did we know that? I mean, there has to be some kind of a tally system. How did that agreement get entered into with Mr. Chips through Fraser Township on their property taxes for a special assessment to pay us money every year if
That
we
was
don't
for
have?
the sewer line, to put the sewer line in. That was an agreement for them to get the sewer line up to their road. That had nothing to do with the usage part of it.
So they pay on top of the 45,000, they get a sewer bill like everybody else.
Everybody else. Actually, they get a bigger bill now because Eagle told them they couldn't dump their
Stormwater.
stormwater in the ditch anymore. So we're taking 10,000 gallons per night of our stormwater. So, and the only way they can get bigger is to get a bigger sewer line.
And if the rumor's true, they had something to do with Deer Acres deal.
I don't know.
That's the rumor, that they had something to
It's
do
on
with Deer
Face-
Acres.
it's on
Yep,
Facebook.
So
Wow.
it is, that's
So,
the rumor
it
floating
is,
around.
I mean, what's on
I'm not
Facebook.
saying
I
it's,
don't know. And who knows if it is or not, I think everybody's
So,
kind of sad about it
All
either
right,
way.
enough
but-
talk.
so moral of the story is, can we get an actual, what their actual expense is? The actual usage that we are using and paying for.
Because our agreement is you're gonna get charged the minimum.
So if we're charging me $71, what you're telling me is we just give $71 to Department of Water and Sewer? Okay, that's what I'm asking. So in my case, use my case exactly, if it's $71 that I have to pay for sewer, how much do we pay the Bay County Department of Water and Sewer? That's the true question. And I
They have to use it
didn't-
off the water. So
They have to
They
what?
they would have to use it off the water. We don't have meters on the sewer line.
They're not using it off the water though.
What we pay them would be off the water line.
Okay, so we pay them the actual usage, but we
Actual
bill our
reading.
customers the
That's all they
minimum?
can charge us for is the actual readings.
Okay,
So, wow.
so basically if somebody uses, single person and they use a very small, like the gentleman you mentioned, right? How much water does he use? Do you remember what he said? I think you were just estimating. So if he uses, let's say, a quarter of the water that he's technically being billed for on the sewage, so we're just taking that extra money that he's paying as if he used it and it's going into our surplus. But we're not being charged for it by the county.
No, they can't charge us for it. They charge us for any labor they do. They charge us for any repairs they do. They charge us for, obviously, redoing these pumping stations.
So basically, if we were to raise the sewer rates, and I understand what you're saying, I get what you're saying, that we're gonna have a shortfall. I don't understand how we're gonna have a shortfall if all of the people are being billed more money than they're using on sewer and we're not being charged for that
All the
difference.
people are not being billed.
Well, the people that are on the sewer are being billed as a minimum usage.
Yes, but they're not all using minimum. They're not all, there's restaurants and that use a lot more than, we adjust them every year.
Right?
I adjust them up and down every year for what they use.
Right.
So
Well, last year we should have had a lot of surplus because half of them were closed and so were the year before, but we still had to pay the bills.
No, but then that caught up to them, meaning when we adjusted them down, and now that they're back open, they got adjusted back up. So you're right, the first year when COVID hit,
I mean, I couldn't go to the restaurant without getting lectured how many,
I know, but they don't work that fast.
Well, and my
They don't
concern
work
is
that
less
fast.
about commercial and the RUs. My concern is less there, because there is a certain amount of cost of doing business, and they're clearly above the minimum. My concern is for the residences. My concern is for the individuals that are elderly, that are one or two people living there, that are nowhere near the minimum usage, that are already paying for what they're not using at that minimum charge, that are now gonna get more money tacked onto it, just so it can flow into a surplus account, and apparently we're not paying for it. So that's what I have an issue with. If we have a shortfall, we need to figure out why we have a shortfall, because we're getting paid more than we're paying. And that doesn't make any sense. I understand we have upkeep, and I understand that we have capital improvements, and I get that. But this is not a small fund, and I think we need to know that if we're gonna make this kind of a decision, that it's actually based on the facts, and that it's not simply just a fleece of the people to just pull more money out of their pocket every quarter to supplement our balance.
can we get a report from Department of Water and Sewer, how many people are charged the minimal charge? I mean, they gotta be able to do it, there's computers that are perfect from that all aspects. They should be able to say how many clients are considered minimum clients from the Collin sewer line.
But you gotta understand that over the years, since the sewer line's been there, that's how all this money got there.
Correct. But it doesn't mean
And
I
that
wanna,
means that if you're going to add a sewer line, that's, the capital improvements would be to add a piece of sewer line somewhere. We haven't done that in, I don't even know. I
We
don't
did it
even
on
know.
Linwood Road for the door stone,
it's
right?
not for doors.
Well, we ain't done it yet, so don't get excited. It's not, that's gonna be a 2-inch, force main if we ever get to it.
Do you have any idea what the cost is to do the improvements? Is it like
Matt?
that road work is like 10,000 a foot or something like that on average through Shaw?
That project up there is 100, I wanna say 122, 123,000 was the total bill for that. But they're gonna bore it, and we gotta put in a culvert because we couldn't negotiate with one of the farmers. So we're gonna put in a culvert to put the pumping station in, and then Dory's is gonna bring their sewage line out to our,
So do you know about how long that is? Because that might give trustee DeShano some numbers to.
from Fraser Road to the gas station on the corner, it's about a 100 line. But that's gonna be bored, and that's a 2-inch line. If we were going to put in a line,
It'd be a 4-inch normally, wouldn't it?
at least,
Cause I know the line in my yard is a 4-inch line.
yes, there's a 4-inch going to the pickle plant, and they need bigger.
But if you've got a cell phone down there, you could actually do the math real quick and say if it's a quarter mile, it's 400 yards. Well, 1,200 feet. Divide it out. It sounds like it's about $100. Rounding, you said 122, 123. Sounds like it's about $100 a foot.
And then as the health department comes through and says, okay, you know, your septic's no good, you've gotta connect up to the line, we're gonna end up collecting the money from every one of those hookups from those new customers, correct?
Yes, and they gotta put in their own grinder and pumping station.
Depending on where they are, right?
Well, the people in Linwood are on gravity,
People on Cottage Grove are on gravity.
but M13 is a
Force
force
main.
main.
Yeah. So we're gonna get a connection charge from each of those people when the health department goes, and they can no longer have septic. How much is that connection fee on average? What's it based upon?
We send them right to the county, they, you know,
And
When
it
they
would
hook
go
up-
into our fund,
Goes
I
to
guess,
our-
I don't
because
know.
I would say, I mean, we don't ever collect
don't
money
have-
right here.
We get the
Yeah.
water money, we
Right.
don't get the sewer.
So I don't know how
Yeah.
much comes
I
from
don't
them,
know
but
what a
yeah,
connection fee
we don't-
is.
You know,
Obviously, it's something that don't happen very often.
well, I think people that haven't connected aren't all that interested in connecting, so,
At this time.
at this time. So those connection fees though are gonna start going into this account as more people are forced to connect up and have that expense, and then they're automatically gonna jump on after all that expense and have a, you know, minimum charge as well, no matter how much they use. So I would just like a little bit more information on exactly what the trade-off is here between us and the county before I'd be prepared to vote on this. I'd like to make a motion to table.
And that you're going to get the information from the
Well,
company?
you know, I think.
No, they won't give it to
They
us.
won't give it to
I
us.
tried talking to them, and the Department of Water and Sewer
They say we need to talk to
emphatically
you.
says, you are the communicator with them, that is not our job.
Yeah, so we
I
were
was
unable
told
to
that
get
on the phone on
information.
Friday. They have no intention of discussing anything with me. They will talk to the clerk, or they will talk to you directly. But it is none of our business.
All right, so the sewer rate adjustment, we're going to table.
Do we need to vote on that? Or we just need to table it?
And I'll get the cost, the actual cost.
Because that's all I wanted, and they wouldn't give me nothing. I thought that was kind of strange. I said, I'll see you at the next water and sewer meeting, because then I'll have the answer.
All right. So C, the sheriff's contract between Coquitlam and Frankenmuth Township. Any questions?
It's basically just a rehash of the one last month, isn't it?
It's,
But it's Frankenmuth,
It's
it's a little bit
Frankenmuth.
further away, but.
well, that's
it's-
who we have.
Right, that's all we
agreement
can
with.
do it with. That's what was
I got it.
available.
And I think, our share of that one is 79,000.
Yeah. I looked at this, I know I did.
Frankenmuth is gonna be 52,000, and the balance is gonna be picked up by the county.
I'll make a motion to enter into agreement with joint between Buckhorn and Frankenmuth with Saginaw, or Bay County Sheriff's Department.
I'll second it.
Class,
Yes.
DeShano,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Davidson,
Yes.
Cruz.
Yes.
Now, we have a person who is willing to pay for the water, but because the water dumped directly into, his break dumped directly into his sump pump, he's asking for relief of $177.50 regarding the sewer bill. So it has nothing to do with the water, he had to break, but the water, when it broke, it drained into his sump pump, and he's only asking for the $177.50 break in the units that was charged for sewage.
This takes
Didn't
me
go
back.
into the sewer?
What's that?
It didn't even go into the sewer?
No, it never made it into the sewer.
Well, we've had several people that have come with much larger requests when this has happened, where it's just been absorbed into the crawl, or it's went into, the sand base. And, most recently, we have not been approving those and have been saying if you can't pay it, then you can go on a payment plan and we won't shut anything off. This is obviously a small request, but I think it would be very bad form if we did anything other than exactly what we've been doing, which is not approving that. I don't believe this
Is that a
resident.
motion?
I don't believe this resident even lives there anymore, so kind of a moot point. I'm gonna make the motion that we do not make a discount on this and that the bill has to be paid as invoiced.
Do I hear a second?
I will second it.
That'll be a roll call vote.
DeShano,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Davidson,
Nope.
Cruz,
No.
Class.
No.
Just for the record, this is the chair of the planning commission that they just made an approval for to give him a reduction on a bill for a house he no longer owns.
So, that was motion was to not give any relief, right?
That's right.
Okay, so, we're not even, like Lori said, we did, and the last one or two, we've offered a payment plan, we're not gonna offer that?
There's not a problem with the payment plan. The question is whether or not, okay, I would make a motion to revisit the motion.
Okay.
Do you second that?
Sure.
You can just make another motion, that one's voted
Robert's
down.
rule order says you're supposed to,
No, the motion technically died, so anything you want to bring, you can bring as a new motion.
it would be the same arrangements we've offered the last three people that have come here.
Right.
So, he is, if you would like to make a motion, it says he is welcome to contact Department of Water and Sewer, make arrangements, but there will be no concession on the cost of his water and sewer bill.
I will second.
Would you like me to repeat it?
Well, you just said he's welcome to call the water
He is
department.
welcome.
Are we setting you kind of made some
Well,
No, he
agreements
needs to make the
before.
arrangements
We did,
with water
before
and
we
sewer.
said-
We're not allowed to make
This much
arrangements
for that.
anymore.
We're
Water
not?
and sewer, we're not allowed to make arrangements with our customers. The
Oh.
Department of Water and Sewer, he can contact them. He can then make whatever arrangements he deems necessary to rectify this bill.
I don't know that you need a motion on that, because if the arrangements are made directly between the customer and the county, then